Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, and we're talking about Cabrini. Was it too secular, or was it just right? We're taking your calls this morning, 877-757-9424. But good morning, Debbie and Adam.
Good morning, Keith. Thank you so much for having us on The Next Right Thing. And yes, you are absolutely spot on. We are accepting calls for Cabrini reviews, or if you're watching what's going on social media. A lot of people are out there, movie critics, saying don't go buy the ticket. So we want to hear what you have to say, because we want to hear from the Morning Joy listeners. 877-757-9424. This segment is The Next Right Thing. So I personally think I agree with Dave Asherez, Adam, that the next right thing would be to go and see this movie, to view it for yourself. I made the same exact connection that Dave's wife and mother did about the connection to Mother Angelica, and I thought it was a very powerful movie. It was so obvious she was a powerhouse of a holy woman, and soon to be a saint after she passed away. And I will tell you that I didn't pick up any of the things that are happening on social media, so I'm a little bit, as you can tell, well, probably because Keith and I had to get up an hour earlier today because we live in Arizona. So I'm a little bit agitated, because I find that social media is always a good use of a public forum, but it also can be the devil's playground when people start putting their own views in, and then it doesn't allow others to make their own assessment of things. And it bothers me, and we're seeing more and more of that. What do you say to that, Adam?
Well, Deb, if you and everybody would allow me to climb on my soapboxes and put one foot on one and the other foot on the other soapbox just for a second. So yeah, social media, I think we all kind of know and have heard this through various discussions. It basically trains us to take extreme positions. And the people that designed it to grab your attention and try to hold your attention. And so it gives you feedback when you take either an extremely positive or extremely negative position on something. And if you take a nuanced, more subtle position that's based more in reality, which is kind of in the middle and life is complicated, basically you're ignored. And so over the years, it has kind of conditioned us in a very, simple psychological way, has conditioned us to take extreme positions. And we also know from watching the news all our lives that bad news gets more attention than good news. How many good news stories are on the news? Not many. Lots and lots of bad ones. So that's part of it. I think whether we realize it or not, we've kind of been conditioned. And my background's in studying psychology, have a little bit of real training in this area. So that's a sad point. That's my first soapbox. And my second soapbox is, I think that, we have these kind of artificial ideas about Hollywood and getting a project that's truly high quality and well-funded distributed. So it's one thing to say, I want this movie to be exactly the way I want it to be, and it's got to emphasize exactly what I want emphasized, or it's complete garbage, and you need to utterly ignore it, which is kind of taking those extreme positions. And if I could just share, I'm not a big expert on Hollywood, but I've worked on projects, I've been interviewed, I've talked with people in that industry, I have a sense of it, mainly around TV shows, but a little bit about movies too. Here's the thing, Hollywood is really nervous about putting overly spiritual stuff in films, almost of any type, and almost of any spirituality, any religion. And so to get them to greenlight something and let it finish being made that has a lot of overt spiritual and religious material in it is tough. And then the second thing, so then you say well, okay, maybe they raised their own money to make it. Why isn't it exactly the way I want it to be? The second thing is you got to get it distributed, and you got to get it, picked up by the distributors and in the system to actually appear in the theaters. That's another layer of, we're nervous about overly spiritual and religious things. So my basic kind of thought on this is we all need to relax a little bit and be happy that we have high quality material making it to the theaters about saints at all. And there's more good done by that than saying this isn't the exact type of good that I think it should be, and therefore nobody should see it, which is, I think, a very destructive kind of position to take. What do you?
So yeah, when you had me, I completely agree with you when you said this, that social media takes these extreme points of view, and if you kind of have a common sense and you're processing it out like you're doing right now for all of us, Adam, it's like, oh, that just gets ignored. And I've seen that. I was watching the social media feeds all weekend long, and I mean, a lot of good, well-respected folks that I really love personally, beautiful, talented movie critics are coming out saying, oh, we shouldn't support this. I hope it flops at the movie theaters and all this kind of stuff. The way I look at it is, this film, did it hit all the marks from a spiritual standpoint? No, it didn't. I mean, it's quite obvious. I mean, Mother Cabrini had much more of a deep spiritual sense about her, but it was showing her purpose, her mission, her, the way they conducted themselves, and how they helped to save so many people around the world. All those people that were ignored and thrown away like they were garbage. And so it's a beautiful story if you look at that part. And I just wanted to say that I agree with you. I think it's unfortunate, here we can dominate the big screen with something like this, and yet if we don't support it, if we just say, oh, it's not good enough, we want to wait for the most perfect religious film to come out, I don't think we're going to get there. I don't think it's going to happen. I mean, and so it bothers me. Now, I will tell you, full disclosure, I'm a little bit biased. Mother Cabrini being Italian and helping the Italian immigrants the way she did, I think this is a beautiful story of what happened to all of those Italians that came over on Ellis Island and really worked hard. I had a profound experience, a moving experience in the middle of the film. I connected so much with my grandparents, and now it made sense what my mother used to tell me about my grandparents and what they went through. And I believe Father Mike Schmitz had a very moving experience midway of the film as well. And so I just think people should just maybe revisit this and not go to these extremes. Now, I will tell you, though, let's go to Padre Pio. And by the way, folks, if you have something to say about this, please weigh in right now, 877-757-9424. That's the number to call, and Tim is waiting to answer your call, and we want to hear from the Morning Joy listeners. But what bothers me is you talk about the extremes, Adam. I remember when that Padre Pio film came out last year, and everybody was like, oh, we got a film on Padre Pio, it's so amazing. And even some high-ranking, clergy were okay with it too after. And I was like, are you kidding me? This was a disrespectful, absolutely disrespectful, in my opinion, film of one of our greatest saints. I mean, it captured not even an ounce of anything that man. It was a political film. It was everything, the agenda driven behind it. But because the lead actor, converted to Catholicism, everybody gave it a pass. Okay? I don't think that's a good use of common sense here and understanding of things. And I just think that as Catholics, we really just need to do our research. Now you got me on a soapbox, and I'm sorry. Maybe it's because it was 2:30 in the morning when my alarm went off this morning. But I just have to tell you, Adam, it's getting frustrating to watch on social media how there's a lot of manipulation going on, and people are not letting people make up their own minds about things and feel okay about it. Like, I don't want to feel guilty that I went to go see Cabrini.
Mm-hmm. And, the other piece of this that I think maybe not everybody is aware of is this. When the church declares a saint, one of the main criteria is that they lived a life of heroic virtue. So the way they live their lives, and if you look at Mother Cabrini's life, it is a life of heroic virtue.
That's
right. This is a person that was told you're going to be dead within a year or two, or maybe 3. You should probably just settle back and try to get as much life as you can. And she goes to a new country, works with the poorest of the poor, stands up to people her whole life for the children, for Jesus. the way she lived her life is one of the main criterias of sainthood. It's not how much they stood before a crucifix, though that's important. Their religiosity and spirituality is important, but the life of heroic virtue, if that's not there, you're not even considered for sainthood. Right?
Yeah.
There's lots of people that have said the prayers they need to say every day and have loved certain devotions, but if they didn't live a life of heroic virtue, they're not even in the running for consideration for sainthood. So the film really emphasizes the heroic way she lived her life, and she lived her life as an expression of Christian virtues. So, I would just point that out. The surface stuff is important, but we know, some people that seem to be very holy, they're not necessarily. Some people, there can be a veneer of that, and they're very troubled. But the person that lives it day after day and to the end of their days,
Right.
there's something solid there, even underneath the surface. And so I just think this film is emphasizing a different part of sainthood than maybe we think of in the superficial way.
Yeah, yeah, and let's face it, we talked about it last week. I'm kind of getting tired of this whole idea that this beating up on women, that women can't be strong and women can't be. Everyone needs to be strong. We all need to be strong. We're living in a tough world, and she was a very determined nun to make it into. She wanted to go into China first, and it was Pope Leo the 13th that told her, no, go to the West first. I mean, she had a big mission in front of her. She wasn't of good health, okay, and she had to be strong. There's nothing wrong with that. The way they're trying to tie this in, that it's some kind of political type of movie or whatever, I mean, this is getting really old now. I mean, we're going to get to a point where we're not going to be able to watch anything anymore because you can't make a good decision about things. You can tell I'm a little bit irritated, and it's probably because I really felt the same way that Dave Asher has felt. I saw the connection with Mother Angelica, and that hits home for all of us here on Catholic radio. I mean, she is the one that started it, right? Well, okay, we just got the sign from our producer. It's a good thing he's keeping us on track. Tim, we're going to send it back to Keith for some announcements. Keith, I'm all fired up. I'm sorry. I apologize.
It's okay. Well, hey, who needs coffee when you've got fired up Debbie on the line?
True.
Well, it's a good point that what Dave mentioned and what you mentioned about Mother Angelica. I didn't put that connection together, so now I need to go rewatch Cabrini because I think obviously it's a great movie. Yes, more prayer could have been involved, but come on. Like this is a full-fledged feature film that we're still going to be talking about. So if you have any thoughts, comments, concerns about the movie Cabrini, give us a call, 877-757-9424. We want to hear from your experience in watching Cabrini. So stay tuned. We're going to be right back with the next right thing on Morning Joy, where truth matters. See you after this break.
You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters.
Are you feeling lost in a sea of overwhelm? Hi, this is Coach Felicity with Stand Tall Today Coaching Minute. Many people find themselves challenged with overwhelm. Too many things to take care of, too many people to please, too much work to do. And in spite of their best efforts, they continue to fall behind with this overwhelm coming in like a flood. But that's not the abundant life that Jesus wants you to live. That's why Stand Tall Today has experienced professional coaches that will assist you in dialing down that overwhelm. They'll help you get a grasp on where you are and to create a plan that enables you to take bite-sized steps of action so you can live an abundant life. Why not take your first step right now? Go to standtalltoday.com and find a coach that is just right for you. Because life is simply too short to stay lost in a sea of overwhelm. This is Coach Felicity with your Stand Tall Today Coaching Minute.
Do you feel life is flying past you? Are you desperate for moments of peace and quiet? Lord, Teach Me to Pray, the free Ignatian prayer series opens hearts to His voice, to the peace you are seeking, the only love that fulfills the human heart, Jesus. God is calling you to true joy, knowing Jesus personally. Lord, Teach Me to Pray is free. Go to LordTeachMeToPray.com. Click the red box. Order Lord Teach Me to Pray now. LordTeachMeToPray.com.
Welcome back to Morning Joy, where truth matters. I'm your host, Keith Downey, still talking on The Next Right Thing with Debbie Georgiani and Adam Bly, all about Cabrini and Catholic film in general. So let's pass it back on to Debbie and Adam.
Thanks, Keith. Okay, I settled down now. You see how quick? I mean, I'm learning to just share what I need to share on Catholic media, and then I just move on because there's so many other things we have to deal with. But Adam, you wanted to discuss about major films and distribution and things. Why don't you go ahead and take it from there? And by the way, let me just add this. You know, Morning Joy listeners, you wanted us to address things that are happening that are happening every day, and timely information, things that are coming out. This is why we're opening the phone lines. We're going to open them up today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, 3 days. If you've seen Cabrini, you want to talk about it, you want to talk about any of the topics or any of the articles that Keith is going to mention, please dial this number, 877-757-9424. Okay, Adam, take it away.
Yeah, so there was just one other aspect of this I wanted to point out, and that is when these projects make it to the theaters, if they don't do well, it's going to make it less likely that the next project is either funded or picked up by the distribution network and makes it to the theaters. You know, if we wait for the perfect film that checks all the boxes for us, in our opinion, before we go and see it, Hollywood and the other people involved in that industry are going to look and see, well, these films don't do terribly well. We were nervous about them before, and now they don't make much money, so we're not going to fund them or distribute them.
That's right.
So, you know, this is a quality film. It's higher budget. It was made well. It checks a lot of the boxes in terms of celebrating a saint and showing the incredible charitable work of the church. You know, she did so much for the neglected and the ignored in society.
That's right.
You know, and so, again, that's just something else to keep in mind. It's easy to throw stones. It's easy to, you know, pick on somebody that's trying to do something good, right? Mm-hmm. It's kind of human nature. We have a much easier time sitting in our chair and saying, you know, oh, that should have been done a little bit different. I would have done it this way. Versus the people that have actually put themselves, you know, into these projects and found a way to get it done in a system where they had to compromise. Mm-hmm. So again, I'm just, you know, encouraging people to relax a little bit and enjoy it for what it is. Right. Realize it is solidly Catholic, even though it doesn't emphasize exactly what you want. It emphasizes heroic virtue.
Right, right. You know what else, too, that kind of bothers me? Now you got me. And we've got Nicole on the line. That we're going to get to Nicole. But real quickly, you know, to much that is given, much is expected. And, you know, we as Catholics, I'm a cradle Catholic. I've been a Catholic my whole entire life. Had an uncle who's a priest, an aunt who's a Dominican sister. So I came from a very religious family. And I have a real problem when everybody goes out on social media and they're like, oh, so-and-so wasn't even Catholic who wrote this, or so-and-so distributed wasn't Catholic. We've got to be really careful throwing these labels out there. This is dangerous. I'm sorry. Yes, we have to state what is authentically Catholic, and we should stick with that. Absolutely. But I think we have to be careful when we start labeling everything and start to say that it's them over there versus us. This is anyway. That's a whole nother subject. Maybe we can tackle it on the spirit world. Nicole, please, Adam, wave to Nicole. She's on YouTube and she's calling in from Ohio. Hi, Nicole.
Hi, Debbie. I'm Italian and I'm fired up too. It must be the Italian thing. Listen, I have a friend who is, I would say, evangelical, non-denominational. She only knows the misconceptions about our church. And we have discussions about that. She was at Cabrini Friday night. She had gotten a ticket free. And she was texting me in tears saying, this movie is so wonderful. You know, tell me more about her. Tell me more about sainthood. And I was sending her links about the real Mother Cabrini with footage and sainthood. And I'm so tired of the criticism. I think it will open up minds and heart. Mm-hmm. So unfortunately, I didn't get there this weekend. I will go next weekend. But for a non-Catholic watching it, she was so moved. She was asking me questions, and that's a wonderful thing.
Nicole, I couldn't agree more. I'm so glad you called in. You're exactly your situation with your friend. That's exactly what I'm talking about. You're opening up the conversation, the dialogue to go deeper about what a saint is, who Mother Cabrini was. I did the same thing, Nicole, the exact same thing. I went home, I researched Mother Cabrini for hours and hours and hours. Adam, what do you say to Nicole's situation with her friend?
Yeah, Nicole, I think that's a perfect example. You know, in the Jesuit order, they have a kind of a concept or of an idea about ministry, and that is to meet people where they are. So, you know, if a film is super heavy on really nuanced and deep theology, to somebody who's secular, that may be like too much. It may be too abstract for them. But something that's very concrete and it's very human, and it draws them into asking those additional questions. You're kind of meeting the people where they are. They may not have really understood Jesus yet, or the mystical body of Christ, or the Sacred Heart, and be able to dive deep into all of those things, but they can say, wow, this person really impresses me. This person's, you know, there's something special about this person. Tell me what that special thing is I'm picking up on. So yeah, I think, Nicole, it's a wonderful example of the good that can be done.
Yeah, I agree. Nicole, you're awesome. Thank you so much for weighing in this morning. We really, really appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Have a good day, guys.
You too.
Thank you. So here's what I want to share something else too. I was a religious education director for many years, since 1989. And I will tell you that I had a whole entire room full of videos, Catholic produced Catholic videos of saints, of stories, all sorts of things that have to do with our Catholic faith. I would show them to elementary school kids. I would show them to junior high, high school. Almost every one of those films, with the exception of one or two, and I can get the name maybe on Tuesday or Wednesday, the kids would say to me, Miss Deb, this is so boring. This is a lousy film. They would say it all the time. So I don't know what we expect, but when you have a well-produced film like this that can open up a conversation like Nicole has had with her friend, and it could lead to a deeper understanding of what our saints are all about and our faith, I think that's the way to enter into those magnificent conversations. I love that Nicole shared that this morning. What do you say to that, Adam? And I'm no disrespect to all these Catholic filmmakers that have done all these films on saints, but if the kids are saying they're boring, they're probably not going to see them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the challenge of trying to get a high quality product done, is it takes a lot of money. It takes serious funding. You've got to get high quality people that either are moved to do it voluntarily, but then there's a lot of people you're going to just have to hire. And to pull that off, you've got to make compromises. And I'm not saying that like, oh, the church needs to compromise. I just mean when you move into media, you're working as a cooperative thing with the rest of the media industry to some extent. And I think this film is an example where there isn't much compromise, I don't think, because there is so much heroic virtue so strongly portrayed that is moving even to secular people to ask more questions about sainthood. So yes, they had to compromise. Every project does. And, you know, even if it was perfectly Catholic in one flavor, somebody in a different version of Catholicism in terms of a different emphasis within the church would say, oh, that's not my kind of Catholic. Like, there's always going to be something to criticize about, but let's look at the good in these projects and the good that they're doing.
Well, and all I can say is after seeing Cabrini, Mother Cabrini is now one of my go-to saints, because I never would have researched her. I never would have fallen in love with her like that. And I knew all about her when I was a kid, but it didn't resonate with me until I saw this film. So there's one good fruit that came out of it, I think. Okay, we have to make room for the great Monsignor Pope, because he's coming on and he's going to be talking about marriages, mixed marriages, interfaith marriages, ecumenical marriages. And Keith, I'll be joining you on the Clubhouse because I actually was in an interfaith marriage for 20 years. So I'll happily share some of my situation with that. But Adam, I'll see you tomorrow, and Monsignor Pope is up next. And back to you, Keith.
Awesome. Once again, thank you so much, Debbie and Adam, for going through that whole thing with Cabrini and all of the things that you see on social media. My goodness. And even then, if you maybe saw, maybe a couple weeks ago, we spoke with the executive producer, Eustace Wolfington. He said the movie is a back door into Catholicism. So Nicole's example was perfect. That's exactly what we want to see. But yes, coming up next, talking marriages, mixed marriages with Monsignor Charles Pope. You don't want to miss it, so stay tuned.
You're listening to Morning Joy, where truth matters.